데이 리즈 카먼테리 롱 더 리젝션 오브 더 그레인 노어던 크로스라인 라이트 레일 위드 AB C 오브 0.57 슈즈 댓 커리어즈 프릴리미너리 피저빌러티 어세스먼트 시스템 스트럭처럴리 언더블유즈 모빌러티 라이츠 베너피치 더 그레인 노어던 크로스라인 라이트 레일 이즈 낫 A 미어 트랜스포테이션 퍼실러디 but a national level urban operating infrastructure designed to restructure daily life 존재인 노어던 소일 The direct stakeholders of this project include the Ministry of Economy and Finance, the Public and Private Infrastructure Investment Management Center under the Korea Development Institute, the Seoul Metropolitan Government, 8 autonomous districts, and the citizens who rely on this living sphere. The 8 districts consist of Yonpai-yeongu, 서담원구, 메이포구, 장로구, 성북구, 당덤원구, 경북구, and 양천구, which together form fragmented east-west living zones. The moment citizens cross district boundaries, their mobility rights deteriorate sharply, affecting commuting, schooling, access to healthcare and caregiving, and the use of cultural and administrative services. The Great Northern Crossline Rail is intended to resolve this structural fragmentation, and therefore the essence of the project lies not in reducing travel time but in guaranteeing mobility rights. Despite this, the project's rejection in the preliminary feasibility assessment with a benefit cost ratio of 0.57 does not indicate a lack of necessity, but rather reveals that the evaluation framework failed to properly reflect the project's fundamental value. The preliminary feasibility assessment is a system designed to ensure rational management of national public finance, and the Public and Private Infrastructure Investment Management Center under the Korea Development Institute functions as the de facto exclusive operator of this system. Under its operating guidelines, benefits and costs are classified and quantified in a standardized manner. While such standardization enhances comparability and procedural fairness, it entails structural limitations when applied to network-based urban rail projects. In particular, during the process of dividing benefits into visible and invisible categories, invisible benefits are frequently excluded from economic analysis or relegated to parliament evaluation. At that point, the assessment shifts from an evaluation of economic value to an evaluation of visibility. The core problem of the Great Northern Crossline rail emerges precisely at this juncture. Within the operating guidelines of the Public and Private Infrastructure Investment Management Center, visible benefits are defined as travel time savings, vehicle operating cost reductions, accident reductions, and environmental cost savings. These items are relatively easy to quantify and can be converted into present value from a financial perspective. In contrast, invisible benefits are classified as accessibility improvements, regional balance, social equity, urban resilience, and travel reliability, many of which are excluded from economic analysis or treated merely as policy evaluation factors. The fundamental issue is that the core benefits of the Great Northern Crossline rail are concentrated precisely in these invisible domains. Mobility rights constitute a socially essential benefit rather than a visible financial gain. At the current operating framework fails to sufficiently incorporate them into the numerator of the benefit cost ratio. Even from a statistical standpoint, this evaluation lacks persuasiveness. As of 2025, Seoul's population stands at approximately 9.3 million, and the combined population of the districts traversed by the Great Northern Crossline rail approaches 3 million, nearly one-third of the city's total population. Yonpai-yeongu, 성북구, 당덤원구, and 경북구 are experiencing rapid growth in elderly populations, while 장로구 functions as a core access hub where administrative, cultural, and medical services are concentrated. When these hubs are not directly connected by rail infrastructure, citizens are forced to rely on an average of 2 or more transfers and prolonged bus travel. This is not a matter of inconvenience but a form of structural deprivation of mobility rights. When the benefits of the Great Northern Cross Line they are calculated solely on the basis of ridership volume, these structural improvements in mobility rights statistically disappear. However, mobility rights are a leading variable that precedes ridership volume. When mobility rights are secured, travel demand follows. When mobility rights are constrained, demand is suppressed. The current feasibility assessment reverses this cause relationship by concluding that benefits are low because demand is low, while in reality demand is observed to be low precisely because mobility rights are constrained. This constitutes a self-fulfilling statistical error. Internationally, evaluation frameworks for urban rail systems have already evolved toward mobility rights and accessibility-centered approaches. Advanced texts prioritize changes in the number of jobs, schools, and hospitals reachable within a given time threshold of mere reductions in travel time. This accessibility-based evaluation directly captures network effects. If the Great Northern Cross Line rail were assessed under this framework, administrative and cultural accessibility centered on 장로구, healthcare accessibility in Yongpyeong, Gangbo, and Songbuk districts, and labor market connectivity between the southeastern and northeastern areas of Seoul would improve simultaneously. These changes generate social benefits far exceeding the simple aggregation of individual travel time savings. The cost side of the assessment also presents clear issues. Preliminary feasibility assessments treat construction and operating costs as fixed values, while in reality costs vary significantly depending on design choices, phased openings, and operational strategies. The Great Northern Cross Line rail is a project well suited for phased implementation, prioritizing segments with concentrated demand rather than opening the entire line at once. Furthermore, coordinated bus network restructuring and optimized transport can simultaneously reduce operating costs and increase benefits. However, such strategic cost adjustment possibilities are insufficiently reflected in the cost components of the feasibility assessment. Costs are calculated rigidly while benefits are calculated conservatively, structurally depressing the benefit-cost ratio. Another critical flaw lies in the failure to jointly consider invisible costs and invisible benefits. Temporary inconvenience, noise, and vibration during construction are counted as costs, at long-term reductions in welfare expenditures due to improved mobility rights, increased social participation among the elderly, and enhanced access to caregiving services are not translated into cost-saving effects. Statistically, improvements in mobility rights reduce delays in medical access, thereby lowering the probability of disease severity escalation and reducing public healthcare expenditures. Nevertheless, under the current operating guidelines, such effects are not incorporated into economic feasibility analysis. The Great Northern Cross Line rail is not an issue confined to a district, but a matter of Seoul's overall urban operating system. The east-west connection, including 장로구, represents not merely transportation convenience, but a structural investment enabling the redistribution of administrative, cultural, and economic functions. From the perspective of the federal enterprise architecture framework, it is a multifunctional project that simultaneously improves service for citizens, economic development, environmental management, and public safety. The moment such a multifunctional project is evaluated through single function indicator, the state risks disqualifying essential infrastructure by its own hand. The rejection of the Great Northern Cross Line rail with a benefit-cost ratio of 0.57 should not be interpreted as project failure, but as evidence of the limitations of the current feasibility assessment system. It reflects the outcome of combining benefits to visible financial gains while relegating mobility rights and accessibility to secondary values. statistics are not known. Outcomes change entirely depending on how benefits are defined. To the honest citizens, this point must be stated clearly. The project was rejected not because citizens lacked need, but because their mobility rights were not properly calculated. The preliminary feasibility assessment is not merely a system for producing numbers, but a declaration of what the nation chooses to value. Mobility rights must now be recalculated not as a cost, but as a core benefit of national competitiveness. Thank you for reading the Liz commentary. long.